Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first taping of Concentration Check. I'm Wyatt. I'm joined by my friend Anthony, and we're going to be taking you through the intricacies of Dungeons and Dragons, with both aspects from people behind the screen as the dungeon masters to the players at the table. Now's the time you introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Tony. I'm gonna be going over the aspects of more of the player, whereas White's gonna be going over the dungeon master aspects. Kind of.
So, just a little backstory. I've been playing since 3.5. Um, so, maybe around 7-ish years. I've been DMing for about 4 of them. Played other tabletop games such as Baldur's Gate and Pathfinder. I think you actually come from more of a Pathfinder background, don't you?
Yeah, I did a lot of Pathfinder with my brother previous to this. A little bit of D&D, but not much.
Um, so, pretty much what we're talking about today is pretty much backstories, right?
Actually, yeah.
Pretty much what are they, how they're important, so on and so forth, right?
Right.
So to me, as a DM, backstories are increasingly important because it shows that my players are putting effort into their characters. They're trying to draw out the life of them. They're trying to contribute to the world that I'm making.
And then for the players, it's more of how 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 was your character before he is now? Like, where does he come from? Kind of deal. Not just, oh yeah, I was there and now I'm here.
Yeah. Um, I actually, I really like the fact of like, I don't like lazy players. Like I don't like people who show up and like, oh yeah, I have a fighter. He's a half elf fighter, and yeah, this is him. But if I can have someone who is clearly like not meta, I guess, in the sense of like they're not min maxing, they're not doing whatever, but he's like, my guy's a kobold sorcerer, and he worshipped a dragon, and then all of a sudden the dragon breathed fire on him, and now he can do draconic sorcery shit. That's how that's how I see it, and it allows me to say like, okay, so player number one who just showed up with a pencil and a piece of paper and was like, yep, ready to go, yeah, go fuck yourself. And player number two that actually put the effort in from these weeks that we've been kind of leading up to session zero, session one, so on and so forth. Yeah, I can take what you said. I can work with it. Even down the road, I can add something in. I can add like a side quest, or I can essentially like kind of give you the spotlight.
And it even helps with transitioning into the party or group. Maybe you it's following kind of your same goal, right? Say you're looking for to make money and you just so happen to be in the same room as another person, maybe even grabbing at like the same uh, like notice on the board for killing some local goblins, or maybe even like raiding a camp, or maybe someone brought you there. They gave you a piece of paper, and it kind of like adds to the story in the way.
Now, you are actually a fan of basic backstories, right? Like short backstories, like one paragraph.
Yeah, I it depends though. If you're level one, I don't want to hear how you like you were an assassin, part of a thieves guild or an assassins guild, and you've killed many people. Like, no, you're level one. You did not do that.
Yeah, you pretty much just showed up to an adventurers guild and you're like, I'm here.
Now, unless you're that type of person that, and your character is gonna keep going through it, and he's just gonna lie to everyone. He's like, oh yeah, I killed the dragon. I've done this, and that kind of just becomes really boring after the first day. Because no one wants to hear your character brag all day. It's kind of boring and very lame, lackluster.
I think like I think it a line and then embellishing are two different things. So like I would choose line like if we're talking about like character archetypes, I would choose like line would be from a rogue, whereas from a bard they're embellishing their tales. Like if they fought like a lizard or whatever, or like they fought like an iguana or a Komodo dragon, they would tell this tale in this tavern about how they slew a mighty forest dragon. And I mean that kind of brings personality uh, to the story, brings personality to the party. But I definitely agree with you there. I think that certain levels, especially like 1 through 4, you're just starting out. You're just kind of finding your foothold in the world from a character perspective. Once you get onto like level 5, level 10, then you can say these things of like, oh, I've persuaded a king to grant me a knighthood, or I did this, or I did that. But generally speaking, like some of the most influential backstories that I've seen have pretty much just been super open ended and allowed me to kind of play with it more. It allowed me to say, well, if XYZ happened, 1, 2, 3 also has to happen. Whereas, someone coming in very open and it's like, just work with it, work with whatever you want to do. I can surprise them. I can allow character development. I can bring on that emotional response from someone uh, throughout the story as it unfolds.
Yeah, having it open is very helpful for the DM because it allows them to go, hey, what if I bring up someone from your past, and you should really be open to it because it's really going to like open your DM to having your character have the moment for that time, you know.
Um, so I want to talk about some tropes that I've seen, especially with like newer players, and people always talk about it, but I'm just gonna put this out here right now. Death in the backstory does not make a tragic backstory.
Yeah, it it really doesn't. It doesn't help you if you said your parents died. It's like, well, other people's parents died too. What made yours special? Why is it? Why are you bringing this up right now?
Yeah, people are dying like literally left and right in the Dungeons and Dragons universe, and it's not necessarily that they died; it's the circumstances under which they died. And
Yeah,
I think you actually you brought up one where you were talking about, what was it? Your the character was, his parents were like adventurers guild members or something.
yeah. His parents were adventurers, and the story kind of goes into you had your your parents' friend who taught you kind of how to sneak about the forest, go around unseen. He taught you how to swing your sword. He was there when you were born. He was essentially your godfather. Your parents left you alone with him, and then you come back one day to find this man hovering over your parents' corpse, waiting for you to come back, and just tells you, you know, remember that story that I told you when you were young, where your parents helped uproot the Thieves Guild? Well, that was my father that they killed. And now I'm going to leave you like how they left me so long ago, without a father or a mother,
And then just dips.
and leaves you.
That definitely, like, I mean, from a player's perspective, that could just be like kind of like written off. Like, yeah, this is how they died. This is why my character is currently sitting in the corner of a tavern, brooding, waiting for you to come talk to him. But um, like from my perspective, as I'm seeing that and reading that, like, yeah, you're definitely going to see this person again, and you may or may not either schwack him or get schwacked by him. Um, so yeah, there's that. Uh, I have a homebrew rule where I don't let the people sitting at the table, I don't let the players read each other's backstories.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. You should not know out of character their backstory because it just makes it that much more interesting. You kind of want to know, so you'll be in character and you'll ask them about it. Maybe they're defensive about it, but being defensive also kind of hinders it too much, especially if you're just constantly saying, "Oh no, I don't want to talk about it," or "I'm not going to even share my name."
Yeah, and we've had instances in the games we play together where that's happened. We're still playing a game where I still don't know one of the characters' names, and I am a character in that game. Like, you know how like how much it breaks my immersion, where it's just like, oh yeah, Balder Bronze Fist, come over here and help me, and Robert, bring your shovel. Like,
Yeah. How do you even interact with that character? How does your character actually build trust with that person? You don't even know their name. You don't know where they're from. They're just a person that helps you kill things, and it's kind of a weird situation puts you in, because you're like, are they my friend? Are they my enemy? Do I have to, stay awake all night so they don't kill me in my sleep?
that's when you really want to have a high constitution. I subscribe to the idea that people's upbringing, people's backstories, by alone, yes, they make interesting characters, but how these people interact with each other and how they bring their backstories into play while interacting with the rest of the party, that makes for a great story. And that's all that, like, I prefer storytelling over combat. I sound very pretentious when I DM. I use a lot of big words, and I don't. I'm not really focused on the combat as much as progressing the narrative forward. I like bringing emotions out in people, and essentially, I like people to think that they're reading a novel versus playing a video game, or versus playing a game in general.
Yeah. Um, I like narrative, but at the same time, I love combat. There's something about it, and going back onto kind of the topic with the narrative. If you don't have your background story set and you don't know what you're going to do with your background story, how are you going to act out what they might be like? What's going to make them happy, sad, or angry? What's going to drive them into finishing this storyline that's put in front of you? Are they seeking gold? Are they
Like after glory or something.
after glory? Or are they just there for a good time, trying to make enough just so they can go get drunk and go find a random wench on the street and take them back home or back to the inn? And as you pass by all your buddies, they just wave at you, and you kind of like say, hey, don't look at me right now.
I feel personally targeted right now because that's exactly how I play. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. But for like all the like those new people out there who are like kind of like sitting down and they're like, oh, I want to play Dungeons and Dragons, but like I'm not creative, or I'm not this, I'm not that. I can't imagine, how my character would act. I can't imagine up a backstory. It's perfectly fine to just say screw it and kind of like go the stereotypical like by your race stereotyping, right? So like like Dragonborn, for instance, are part of a tribe. You could just say you're part of that tribe, or what is it, Colossus, or I don't know. The
The
mountain
Goliaths.
yeah. Goliaths. They're bent on who's the strongest, or pretty much settling things through how well they can perform. Someone could have just dared them like, hey, go be an adventurer, and they can just like, all right, well, guess I got no balls into becoming an adventurer. Guess I gotta go do that now.
Yeah, and that would lead to be an interesting kind of story. You meet up with these people and they're like, "Oh, I'm here for glory. I'm here for this." No, I just got tricked into coming here.
I was just told I wouldn't do it, so here I am doing it. Yeah. And what people don't realize is like your story it evolves as you go on. Like from what you wrote down on the paper, That's just from me to read for an initial setup. Like, that's just for me to get into the mindset of, like, okay, this is what's going on later on down the road. But, as you level, as you have interaction with people, you can keep adding on to your story. It's just written, you know?
Yeah, and even having a simple backstory, like as a wizard, a lot of people do the academy kind of deal. Oh, I just graduated and became a wizard from the academy. Well, you can always add in there. Maybe someone there just didn't like you. Maybe they were bullying you when you were there, and maybe they might somehow pop up. You tell the DM, hey, there's this specific dwarf that was there that didn't like me because I was an elf. And there's always this rivalry of who was going to be the top of the class, and I just happened to beat him at the end.
I want a homeschool wizard. I want I want a wizard that his parents kept him home, and he's just like, no, you're gonna study from this. And yeah, I want a shut-in wizard who has trouble with social interactions.
Yeah, yeah that could be pretty funny. You're there walking, and then you're about to be in this adventure, and then you go, oh man, I've never had a friend before in my life. The closest thing to my friend was my familiar that I had.
Oh God.
So there you are, in with a bunch of people, talking to your familiar, and asking, oh, what do you think we should do next?
I distinctly remember that you had a character who was a paladin who spoke to a rat.
Yes. Yep. That was a cleric.
Oh yeah, cleric. I'm sorry.
Definitely talked to this rat all the time. It was a funny story behind that rat too. We didn't quite work that out yet, but
like, you get into it, and even if it's just like, oh, this is why my character's angsty, or this is why my character's doing this or doing that, like, if it makes you laugh or gives you enjoyment, like, oh, I can't wait to see what, like, Steve the rat has to say next time, like, that, if it gets you excited about coming back to the table and listening to me ramble on for 6 hours a day, like, that's, at the end of the day, that's pretty much all you can ask for.
Yeah, you come to the table to have a good time, and it really doesn't matter what you bring to the table as long as everyone's having a good time. It kind of distracts when you're at the table and you're not really into it.
Right. But for dungeon masters out there, I think we kind of, banged the character gavel into the ground enough. For the dungeon masters out there, you have a very important job, and that job is to facilitate these characters and facilitate their backstories. If you want to have a good campaign with, like a general party of people, like, I want to experience this. I want to experience what D&D is, not just a bunch of murder hobos, not the sweaty neckbeards that want to see a bunch of elven slave girls entangled. It's your job to kind of facilitate how these backstories evolve. You can, kind of delve in deeper, have private conversations with the characters offline, and say, like, what did you think about this, or what do you think about having, or even just surprise them. But you want to kind of pull out that emotional response from them, and you want to see their character grow. So it's very important that not only do you read and understand their backstories, and not only understand where the characters are coming from, but to push it forward and help them write the next chapter of their character's life.
And then you just, when you're making your story and you're going into your background, don't be afraid to talk to the DM. That's I'd say the most important thing is talk to them. Say, hey, this is how my backstory is, and then they might go, oh, that's pretty good, or could you elaborate on these details so I can get a better understanding of your background story and where you come from as a player.
So I like to do things. I like to see, like, surprising things from both when I'm running a campaign as well as when I participate in a campaign. I like to see surprising things, like if a character will tell me, or not a character, but if the dungeon master will tell me, okay, this is taking place in the city. I like to kind of like throw that monkey wrench in, and it's like, oh, my character's from the farmland, or he's from somewhere else, never really been to a city before, doesn't know what the hell a brothel is. You know, like the most amount of ale he's had is from Jim Bob's secret stash out in the woods, and kind of just having like this kind of country bumpkin.
Hey, don't hate on Jim Bob's secret stash, man. That stuff's potent.
Definitely, that's why I have an intelligence score of 7. But I think I think this would probably be it for our first kind of inaugural session. Do you think so?
Yeah, I think so too.
Just come back next time. Uh, have more kind of cast talking about certain things, like we kind of touched on it, but kind of going into more depth of dungeon master styles or player styles, even kind of like do's and don'ts. We'll probably end up breaking down the classes and the races as they go along. But thank you for joining us today. Have a good one.